In fact, I call Himanshu as the Virat Kohli of
Yes.
Indian manufacturing sector.
Absolutely.
We work with multiple customers, multiple geographies, multiple teams across the globe.
I trust everybody in the company and I believe in it. Biggest innovators in the world are the biggest risk takers.
India or China?
India.
India or China?
No question, India.
If I'm sitting in India, I'm no lesser than a person in the US or a person in Germany. I think a lot of it comes from that.
The project is an outcome of a business. So we are supposed to deliver the project, but I think it's important that we go one step back to understand the customer's business need.
So I trust everybody in the company and I believe in it. Our business is built on a really strong structural backbone and we have a really good foundation.
Hello everyone and welcome to Jendamark in India. Today we are joined with Siegfried Lokotsch, who is the chairman and director for Jendamark in India and also the group CFO. So on the momentous occasion of 10th anniversary of Jendamark entering India, we have him who has joined along with us is Manish, who is from Pro Manufacturing Media. The purpose of this podcast is to get to know more about why Gendamark entered India, what has happened in the last 10 years, and what does the future look like. The entire podcast will be moderated by Manish, and we look forward, and I hope you all enjoy this podcast as well. So over to you, Manish.
Thank you so much, Himanshu, and morning, Siegfried.
Morning.
It gives me a great pleasure to be here with you on the 10th anniversary celebration of Jendamark in India. Siegfried, could you share with us the journey of Jendamark Automation from being an automation solution provider to a global technology company? How has been the journey and what were the key drivers for this evolution of Jendamark Automation?
Morning Manesh, morning Himanshu. I think inherently in Gendamark, in our culture, from when we started, even before I joined Gendamark, I think there was always an element of innovation and the need for technology. I think the real change came probably about 8-9 years ago. Yanesh, one of the other shareholders, felt that we had an opportunity with what we'd built in our automation lines. We had built software. So what we used to do is when we built a automation line, our competitors were generally from Europe. So to differentiate ourselves, we build software, which is now basically workstation, which we would give to the customer for free, which our competitors wouldn't give us. And he realized that there was an opportunity potentially to make it a standalone software. But I think from a business perspective, it was more than that, because being in an automation business, we are a project business. So we have a lot of peaks and troughs. So it's zeros and ones. We either get the whole project or we get zero. So if there's a project for 100 rupees, you either get the whole project or nothing. And I felt that we saw an opportunity from a business perspective that if we could migrate into the software, we could sell software as a service, that would give us a much more consistent revenue. And I think essentially that was the business part of it. From a technology perspective, we actually had the tech in the company. It was just now a question of taking the step to say, right, we're going to split the tech out of the automation and make it standalone business.
Interesting. Siegfried, Jendamark is having global operations in various countries, headquarters in South Africa, then you have operations in India, Germany, and also the United States of America. And this question is to you, Siegfried, and Himanshu, you as well. How does Jendamark Automation maintain the consistency in offering its solutions? As you said, you're a project company, and across diverse regions and across diverse customer base.
It's a good question. It's quite difficult actually. What we try to do is obviously we have the systems and processes in place. I think that's the important thing. So our business is built on a really strong structural backbone and we have a really good foundation. We try to incorporate our teams all over the world, bring them to South Africa, take our South African team to India, and India there, and really to try and get them to understand what the real fundamentals are that we want to build our business on. I think the bigger challenge is the cultural challenge. I think that I found has been far more challenging than the actual physical work that we do. Because the way of thinking in India, for example, and in South Africa and in the USA and Germany is different. And what I've learned over the 10 years that I've been doing this is you've got to really understand the culture and understand the people. And once you understand that, the rest of it is easy. Because if you respect them and you get them to culturally accept what you're wanting to do and you get that buy-in, then it's easy.
Very interesting answer, Siegfried. Accept the cultural differences and build on it. Himanshu, your views on this?
I think it's also primarily the Gendamark DNA is still consistent. And what Siegfried and what the other directors have ensured and what I have embedded is understanding the whole DNA first. And I think if the DNA is consistent, it doesn't matter which geography you operate in, as long as rightly what Siegfried said, the cultural differences, those have to be understood and addressed. Apart from that, we have also followed one Gendamark standard. So it doesn't matter whether it is a customer in US, in India, in Germany, in Turkey, the Gendamark standard is consistent. So which allows us that our customers' needs of a specific geography with the cultural differences get addressed. So our DNA and our standard is something which ensures that across geographies we have managed to deliver to our customers' needs.
Interesting. Siegfried, to just have a follow-up question on this. You have operations which are global in nature, your operating units in different regions. How do they collaborate with each other? Because you're serving a customer or your customer segments are ever evolving. Their needs are changing. How do these different operating units collaborate together to meet those, anticipate those needs and offer your machine design and capabilities in project execution to the satisfaction of your customers?
So we have a very much we don't talk in Gendamark. I always tell them that it's not Gendamark India and Gendamark USA and we won Gendamark. So I always say to them, I'm not interested in hearing that the Indian team is doing this. We're all part of the same company, and there's a big push, especially from a senior management, from myself and for them to actually engage with each other at least once a week. They meet with each other a lot more now. There's one process that gets followed. So whatever happens in America happens in India, happens in Germany. We all have the same ERP system that we've built so that we can interact, so forth. And what I try to explain to them is it's like a cricket team, you know. So you have bowlers, you have batsmen, you have fielders, right? You have different egos within those. You have the captain, you have the vice captain, and sometimes you have to sit on the bench, sometimes you come in on the field, but you've got to understand you're one team. If you think about it, the Indian national team or any other national team, they come from different regions. But when they're part of the national team, they're part of the same team working towards the same goal. And you find, if you go back in history, a lot of the reasons why certain teams haven't won the World Cup, taking India, is because there was a lot of infighting within that, in those factions, because of and if you can break that barrier down, and you can get the people within the company to know that if I'm sitting in India, I'm no lesser than a person in the US or a person in Germany. I think a lot of it comes from that. And I think we've managed to break that barrier down. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. And you mentioned about the analogy to cricket, which is kind of a religion in India. And
it's also a common bonding factor between India and South Africa.
Absolutely. And in fact, I call Himanshu as the Virat Kohli of Indian manufacturing sector.
Absolutely.
So the next question to you, Himanshu, as Siegfried said very interestingly that the DNA of Gendamark and going as one unit to address the customer needs. And Siegfried also mentioned, and you also did touch upon the fact that every project is unique for Gendamark. Every customer need is customized.
Yeah.
And it's tailored to the needs. So different operating units, different designers sitting across in different regions. In such execution phase of projects, how do you address those challenges that each customer has its own nuances in
Yes.
terms of their needs, technology, and as well as the capability to have that assembly line delivered? So, how do you address those challenges?
So I think what we realized in the experience that we had in the past few years is one is a customer expects us to deliver a project. But I think very important and what we are emphasizing a lot more, and at least what I try to understand more, is what is his business need, because the project is an outcome of a business need. So we are supposed to deliver the project, but I think it's important that we go one step back to understand the customer's business need. If you understand the business need, what is it that the project is supposed to deliver? That business need is something which each customer is very keen on. The project is a way of achieving that, right? And so it doesn't matter whether the customer is telling us to do an X thing, but if we understand the real business need, we actually can add value by suggesting him from our experience. Because we work with multiple customers, multiple geographies, multiple teams across the globe. Each customer has a business need which is quite unique. The issue sometimes we face is customers don't come forth to explain the business need. So we probe it more, and once we understand the business need, we have aligned the project, we offer alternatives, we offer suggestions which addresses that need which he may not be aware of. And I think that has really given us a lot of leverage. Our customers really appreciate our team's forthcoming approach when they come and tell that you need to think of an alternative. This is what will also help
And
you.
also tell the customer no.
Yeah, and also the customer know sometimes. It's very
Not,
important.
not, not sometimes, always.
Tell them honestly, this is what we think.
To understand the business needs of a customer, you need to have a culture of customer centricity
And trust.
and customer success culture within the organization. For customer facing role, for example, sales, marketing, project execution, they do understand the business outcome required. How do you drive down that to, for example, you have 300 plus people working in Jendamark India,
India.
and you have a global team. How do you drive that customer success culture or customer centricity down to the designer, down to the manufacturing or the shop floor? How do you do that, Siegfried? And Himanshu, you can answer this as well.
I think it's through your culture and through being your team knowing that you trust them. So I trust everybody in the company and I believe in them. And I believe that when they go out there, they're going to be the best that they can be and do the best for the customer. And when they see that and they know that we have their backs and we believe in them, it's amazing what they can do themselves. So it's not so much for us, it's for them to go out and to do it. I mean, when you have a company that's almost 1,000 people, me and Himanshu and the other guys can't be at every single customer. We can't be engaged in every single project. It's just not possible for us to be able to do that. And I think that's what we do differently.
And I think to add on to what Siegfried said, the values of the company's ownership, what I kept mentioning about the DNA, what is it that as shareholders, business owners, as the directors, what is it that is expected from the team for every single customer project? I think that is transparently shared with everyone. Everyone knows how to deal a particular situation, a particular customer, a particular project. That doesn't change for us. And because that doesn't change, the expectation is consistent. And we're a very transparent company in sharing what we actually feel. Like Siegfried mentioned about the ability to stand up and say sometimes what you really feel about not just to a customer but also challenge internally. So I have got guys who come and challenge us. Why are you doing this? Why not this? Can we try something else? That open communication culture, I think it is very important for us to be connected. Otherwise, if it is only a one-way communication, then the culture doesn't get built, and then that is where people don't understand.
And yeah.
Because if you don't understand why am I doing something, if you don't understand that, then that is where the dilution happens.
And you want them to innovate. So when you innovate, the biggest innovators in the world are the biggest risk takers, right? So how do you get your employees to be prepared to take a chance to innovate? They must know that there won't be a reprisal, even if it's right or wrong. The other thing also is when they're also working on the customer, they also know that they've got our support. So if they have a problem and they need us to support them, we'll support them. They can find Himanshu, they can find me, they can find whoever. We'll be there to help them.
Very interestingly, you said belief in your team, trust, and to innovate, accept failure as a part of the
Absolutely.
part of your system.
I always say that Gendamark's success is actually the foundation is a graveyard of failures.
You learn much more from your failures than you learn from your successes. And like I always tell my kids, you're going to fail far more in life than you're going to succeed. But the important thing is to learn from those failures, use the failures so that you can be better. And it's about when you make a success out of it, the success must be big. But I can tell you now, there's not one successful person in this world that has made it to whatever they've done, whether it be a sportsman, whether it be a business person, whether it be an actor or an actress, whether it be someone that's involved that hasn't failed in some way.
Very interesting. I read a definition of innovation. Innovation is an idea in action. But I also read somewhere, which is my favorite tagline, even on social media for me, is innovation is converting ideas into invoices. Ultimately, it should serve your customer need in the way that their life becomes much easier, their productivity, their uptime is higher, and they're able to achieve higher OEEs as in manufacturing, what you say. Siegfried, my next question is about the global manufacturing landscape. And you are at a vantage position to look at what's happening across. What are some of the biggest challenges Gendamark Automation has faced in meeting the needs of the global manufacturing segments? And how have you overcome them to, again, serve your customers better?
So I think the biggest challenge is trying to convince customers sitting in Europe and in the USA that a small company from South Africa and India can actually deliver what we say we can. Because why must I buy an assembly line from you if I can buy, I'm in Germany, as VW, I can go down the road and buy it from a German. Germans are better, right? I think that's been our biggest challenge, and that takes time, to get the customer's trust and so forth. Other than that, I mean, we don't have any real different challenges to any other multinational business. When you trade in cross geographies, you have the normal things with regard to politics and people and customs and the normal stuff. It really comes down to people and managing that and managing the personalities.
My question about now, we are celebrating the 10th anniversary of Gendamark India. And Siegfried, could you share with us the top reasons why you chose to be in India 10 years ago? And how things have changed in the last decade, because the rapid transformation of manufacturing sector, what you would have seen, most of the changes have happened in the last decade. So could you share the reasons for being in India 10 years ago and
for sure.
how things have changed?
Yeah, so I mean, I can clearly remember when I arrived. I landed in Pune airport. First off, I remember I flew to Delhi, and then from Delhi to Pune. It was September 2013. That's for the first time I put foot in India. I don't know. As soon as I still remember when I came out of the airport in Delhi, I just had a feeling about the place. It just had as you would say, a good karma and a good feeling. There was an energy about it. There's really just felt good. We then proceeded to obviously engage with Nimesh. I mean, we didn't have these grand plans of growing a business and massive business plans. I always tell anyone that puts anything in front of me, if you can't put it on one page and explain it to me in 5 lines, I'm not interested. I don't care what business plan it is, I'm not interested. It means nothing. Because whatever you put on there is going to be wrong. So when I went back to South Africa, I said to my partners, I said to him, listen, I think we've got an opportunity here, because I think in my personal view that Indian economy is going to take off. What I really liked about India is everybody spoke English. I liked the energy and more, I felt they were hungry. The people wanted to really show, and I made the prediction back then, and that was my prediction. I told you this, that India is the next China. And it didn't matter who I told. I told my German customers, they laughed at me. They didn't want to come to India. No, India is a, no, they can't meet the quality. And Americans, they all laughed at me. I said, it's no way that it's going to be there. I said to them, there's a sleeping giant there. And then we started, and we had a good opportunity in terms of where we positioned ourselves because we could offer a solution. So you had the Indian solution at this, which technically maybe didn't meet the expectation. You had the European solution up here, which was expensive. We were here. But our solution technically was as good as the European, but from a price perspective was much less expensive. So I saw and I said to them, we have a perfect opportunity here where we could build a business in India with Indian people and we could grow it. And I must tell you, and I was actually telling my driver Nathan, who's been driving me now for 11 years when I was driving from Mumbai, that I can distinctly remember driving along the freeway, seeing the rubbish, seeing the litter, seeing everything. And if you go look at it now, it's completely changed. There's no more rubbish. Streets are the streets are clean.
Much more organized.
No. And also, we came in just as Modi came in, all right? And I'm not a political person. I don't get involved in politics and religion. But I can tell you that guy's transformed this country completely in terms of what he's done, the policies that he's put in from an economic perspective, the way that he's got rid of corruption. Even back then when we were operating, there was a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of red tape to try and get through various things, and things took much longer to be able to do it. And that the change hasn't been tenfold, it hasn't been 100-fold, it's been 1,000-fold. And that's just the beginning.
Okay.
And I personally believe that, and what you're finding now, those same customers that were telling me, oh no, we don't want to go to India, they know it's a dirty place and they don't know what they're doing. All those customers are now coming and wanting to set up businesses, and they're saying to us, like, how did you guys do it, and where do we do it? And you can see, you can see the foreign direct investment coming in and the way that it's been positioned. And I feel that the Indian way that you guys are going to, it's the start. This is the start this is just the start. You guys are really in for the next, I would say, to next 10 to 20 years, you're going to watch India really catapult to be a real superpower. That's my opinion.
Thank you.
And I'm just telling you that, Manesh, because you're sitting here, I 100% believe it.
It's great to know that. Himanshu, 10 years celebration and this journey so far has been exciting, and you showed me around the shop floor and it was very impressive to see how Gendamark has evolved. Could you share your experience in leading Gendamark India from a manufacturing unit to a major automation player? And what are some of the strategies and the ideas which you implemented which made this possible?
Long question, long answer, but I'll try to make it short. So, when I joined Jendamark in India, it was 8 years back. I just finished my 8th anniversary year. We were a manufacturing unit with Jendamark from South Africa had just come in and started making business plans. And then the biggest challenge I faced was to create self-belief in the guys who were there. Because Siegfried always believed what he mentioned just now, that India is definitely going to be there. The biggest challenge was the guys working here, they had to believe that it is really possible. And that self-belief is something which was my first step, to create that yes, you have to believe that you can do. Because if you don't believe in your own mind, you can tell everything in a boardroom, it won't translate. So the first step was self-belief. Subsequent to that, we had to create a unique identity for us in India. So like you mentioned, between somewhere there, but it's easier said than done, because everybody expects you to be a Indian company operating typically an Indian way of doing things, which is the norm back then, right? Because we hadn't seen so much of automation in the manufacturing sector come in India. So to create a unique identity, what Gendamark can deliver in India, we had to be innovative. We had to do things which nobody would, to be honest, dare to get into. So we delivered India's first battery pack line, the first CV motor line, the only company which makes canning lines in India still, software business. So a lot of first were done by us in India to set us as a first of its kind automation company, and what I always call is one tree with lots of fruits of different types. So that was a vision to create a space for us so that the customers would come quickly around when they had, I mean, even now I see that when there is the most complex problem or a line required or a solution required, the customers will directly dial us. And then they believe that this is one company which has the culture to solve those complex critical problems. So that is how I think we could. And those are the challenges which we face to create self belief, get the right people on board to share that vision which we had, and then convince the customers that we are the right company to partner them for making them realize their own dreams and solve the most complex problems they had.
I think also just on that point, I think Himanshu's had a massive influence in this business in terms of him coming in. It took me 2 years to actually get him into the business. I was after him for 2 years to get him to actually convince him to join. And always in my mind when he joined, he didn't know this. No one knew that I had my viewpoint that I wanted to make him the CEO. And when he joined us, he was obviously in sales. At the time, we had another CEO who was a shareholder at the time, which we eventually bought out, and then I made Himanshu the CEO. But our real growth really started when he became the CEO. After him taking the job, obviously for the first 6 months, 12 months, he was a bit apprehensive. But as soon as he started seeing that he could do the job and he could actually, he was born to do this for sure. And the things that he's done in the company in terms of being able to get it's not something that what I would have been able to do at all, for us. And the other thing you also got to remember here is that everybody in Jendamark India is Indian. There's no foreign employees in this company. So, although we're all together, they operate on their own kind of volition. So, from my perspective, through his leadership, through his innovation, and through his just pure passion for what he does, I would attribute the success that we've had, especially in the last 5 years, to him.
Very interesting, very interesting. And Siegfried, to take the question on the manufacturing sector, and we know how it is evolving. What's your perspective on the future of manufacturing on a global scale? And how is Gendamark positioning itself to stay ahead of the curve in terms of technology innovation to meet these evolving trends?
I think we've got some challenges coming. I think with China more and more isolating itself, a lot of those companies are now trying to reshore their manufacturing, especially in the US. You're seeing it's happening in Europe now as well. But I think that's going to create a whole lot of cost problems because of productivity. I don't think they'll be able to get the cost benefits. That's where I think India is going to benefit, because I feel a lot of that flow is going to come into India. They're going to realize that trying to onshore it is not going to be the actual, the answer. And really, from our perspective, we will continue to innovate in our Odin suite of software, and I think we're really well positioned to take advantage of that, because at the end of the day, what our software does is it allows people to interact with technology to make a better product, a more efficient process, and I think that's where the opportunity lies for us.
So I can add two things to that. On especially when you mentioned about the manufacturing sector's growth, right? And what we are doing more important to stay ahead of the curve. I think what we have started doing, and now what our customers trust us now, is getting us involved way early in the product development stage. So that allows us to start working with the customer, with scanning customers or Excel. So we work with them when they're developing the product. And because of that, our early engagement with our customers puts us in the right mindset to start developing ourselves the solutions. So it's way before the RFQ is written, we know exactly what is expected, and we start in our R&D. I think it's one of the key points which differentiates Gendamark is Quinton Murin, our ND. He leads the R&D department. it's very few project companies who have a dedicated R&D team to innovate. Because typically as a project-based company, you would think that we only execute projects. But we have a research and development team in the company which innovates and starts designing and conceptualizing machines which we don't even have an order for. And that's the early engagement part which actually is keeping us ahead of the curve to ensure that when the point comes or when the time comes, we can just put out solutions on the drawer.
Interesting. Siegfried, when we talk about technology, of course, technology changes happening at the customer side in terms of the product mix or the innovation, what they are doing to improve their product or to meet the regulatory needs. And then there is this smart manufacturing or the future factory or the visual factory or what is called as Industry 4.0 technologies.
Yeah.
And it covers many of these evolving technologies. Could you share how Gendamark has embraced these Industry 4.0 technologies to drive innovation and efficiency?
Yeah, I mean, we have our own definition of Industry 4.0 with all the different elements. You can talk to a lot of people and, everybody talks about it. But to be honest with you, I don't see a lot of it. If you think about the elements, whether it be IoT,
Predictive
maintenance,
prescriptive maintenance,
prescriptive, but all the different elements of it, whereas we actually do it. So if you go and look at every one of our assembly lines or any one of our facilities, we've got some element of it in it. And what we're actually finding is, although everybody's talking about it, it's a big buzzword, customers don't want it. They're not ready for it. And you're asking about the future of kind of what we see with the industry. And I think the manufacturing industry as it is at the moment is very much uncertain. I mean, I heard the other day I was sitting in a meeting and someone brought up Industry 5.0 and I'm like, what are you talking about? I said, I've never even heard of it. They said to me, no, Industry 5.0 is humans interacting with that's our definition of 4.0. It's a human-centric approach. So we've already been using it and doing it in our lines. So, we use it. I mean, I think the new one, which no one's talking about, is AI. As we know, with GPT, and so we obviously have like a lot of our camera stations and stuff. Our Odin Phantom's got that in that. We'd already built that 2-3 years ago, so we're using that in the line checking facilities and so forth. But the problem is not having the technology. The problem is getting the customer to understand it. I'll give you another good example. We've built the Raven, which needs connectivity. A lot of factories don't want Wi-Fi. They don't allow you to have Wi-Fi in the factory. So how are you supposed to have a smart factory if you can't have Wi-Fi?
That's a paradox which we have come across.
And the one that I find is the biggest one, the biggest paradox of them all, is you built this technology so you can have it all in the cloud, and once it's in the cloud, it's easy for predictive maintenance, everything, you can do the analytics. No, we don't do cloud. Everything must be on factory. You see what I'm trying to say to you? So everybody talks about it, and there's all this buzz, but when it comes to the rubber hitting the ground, no, we can't do that. So I read everything and I see what everybody says and what everybody puts in the magazines, and everybody talks about smart factories and digital twins, but I don't see a lot of it happening. We are doing it in our lines. Sometimes the customer doesn't even know that it's actually physically happening in the line. But if you had to actually go and sit to a customer and say to him, you know what, I will make you an assembly line that's completely Industry 4.0 compliant, best technology, the best AI, you'll have the best line ever, they won't buy it. Because somewhere there's some inherent problem, whether it's a problem with Wi-Fi or connectivity or lighting or something. So, Himanshu?
I think what has happened in India, especially at least, is everyone heard Industry 4.0, and the first question most guys ask us, what was 3.0? Because we never categorized the revolutions till 4.0 came in. That's when, why is it called 4.0? That was the first step, and then it was a blind adaptation, unfortunately, of what was happening in the West. And what I always keep telling,
but the West aren't doing it either.
And they were just assuming it's being done, so we must follow it. I mean, other example is You can't go to the fourth gear of a car without going to first, second, third.
No.
Right? And the first
Now they want to go to fifth gear.
now they go to fifth gear straight away. First, if you don't have digitalization, you can't talk about
Can't do any of that. Manesh, you do this. I mean, you go around interviewing people in. How many smart factories have you been to? That's completely smart.
And because
That's completely Industry 4.0 compliant.
they just want to go to this fourth step, and then they realize, oh, but we don't want to use internet. Then you can't talk.
And I'm not talking about a lab. I'm talking about a factory,
Full-scale factory.
a full-scale factory that's actually making things.
I have a follow-up question, Siegfried. Specifically, you mentioned about availability of data. You also touched upon
Cloud.
putting it on the cloud. There could be reasons such as cybersecurity or the confidentiality of the data. So, as a manufacturer, I don't want my data to go out of my place. So, I request solution providers to use edge technology or
But then it's not going to be the latest and the best. So let's unpack that question. You worried about cybersecurity. Okay. Your server and your information sits on. There's nothing wrong with me as an employee walking in there, or not even an employee, a Gendamark person with a disk, plugging it in, taking the information and going. If you know what you're doing, so you still have a risk to it. But if you want to have the best technology, so the reason why we put it in the cloud so we can analyze it. We can't do the analytics. So if you take, for example, predictive maintenance, I can't, if I have 10 machines around the world, the same machine, one in America, one in wherever, if it's sitting in the cloud, we know exactly what that one's doing, what this one's doing, and now we can start doing the analysis, doing the comparative analysis. You can have an AI running it, and you can be doing all of that stuff, and it works. And I get what you're saying, but there are ways that you can mitigate it. The point I'm trying to make, Manesh, is I'm trying to make the point that everybody's talking about it, and everybody's saying it's the best thing, but they're not doing anything about it. For exactly the reason that you're just not telling me now, okay, I'm worried about cybersecurity. But I know 3 of my customers, 3 of them. Not one of them had stuff sitting in the cloud, all 3 of them got hacked.
And also, I think it's a
Shut down completely. All their
Operations were down.
Operations were down for a year. All their employees had to use Gmail addresses. Funny enough, in this specific customer, guess the only machine that worked in the whole factory, in the 2 factories that they had, was a Gendamark machine. It was the only machine that wasn't hacked. All the other machines were down.
Can I ask you one more question on this? The Odin solution, which is a software-based solution, it sits on the cloud. Do you also offer it as a
yes. So
as a service which is sitting on the customer's?
yes. So we have 2 separate
Private
solutions.
network.
So we have 2 separate solutions. One is the Odin workstation, which is an on-premise solution. Right? It's an on-premise because of the, let's say, unavailability of internet or unpredictability of the bandwidth.
No, I think it's more. Odin was developed for OEMs, and OEMs want everything on premise. So the workstation, I think,
so you can access it easier. But we have got the data which is available on premise. That data is then available on cloud if required and do analysis. And we have got an Odin checkpoint, which is our solution, which is a 100% cloud-based solution.
And Raven's cloud.
So it's all on cloud. So that actually uses the power of using cloud computing, the high-end edge software, to bring the analysis to the ground.
We're in the process of also doing an Odin workstation to put it in the cloud. So you can have 2 options if you want to have on-premises and if you want to have cloud.
You mentioned about Odin Phantom. What is it?
So Odin Phantom is our vision-based solution, AI vision-based solution. So what we are trying, what we started off thinking was, because all these expensive hardware on each station, because we are line builders, right? We are guys on the floor. We know our lines. So our lines, and typically all lines built by automation companies, they have a lot of hardware which over the years has become too expensive. A simple push button, a light. So what we did was we took all these hardwares out of the equation. We put simple web-based cameras and our AI engine at the back end with Odin, which then now does the job of the hardware. So we don't have to press a button. You have to just keep your hand. You don't have to have.
It guides you. It guides you. Says,
protects
okay, you need to go there. It will check your hand.
And so if you go to the wrong place, and that is
Even check if you don't have a glove.
If you don't have a gloves,
It won't work. The
it won't
station won't work.
So the safety aspect
Safety.
is also in consideration, because otherwise all we do is we put a tag, wear gloves. But whether he's really wearing gloves, nobody knows.
And haven't you guys also developed it? I think they developed an end of line station with that, where, for example, if it's this bottle, okay, so it'll come to the end of the line. So what was happening is that you'd have a guy with paper checking it and see, oh, it's this, this, and this, okay, and then throw the paper away, and then it goes to the customer, and the customer says, hang on a second, but look, the sticker's not right. So what these guys did was they built the application with the same thing, that when it gets to the end of the line, the camera checks everything. The AI checks it and says it's good, it's okay, and it can go. So when it gets to the customer and the customer says there's a problem, say, hang on a second, I've got all the camera information, it's checked, the project was fine. Because there's always this fight between end user and things. So we built it for that applications as well.
So can Odin or Odin Phantom solution work not only on your assembly line?
Yeah.
It can work on any.
Yes.
So
any
a couple of years back itself, we made it. Initially, it was developed with Gendamark lines, but we had a next version which came out a few years back, where we now have already deployed Odin on non-Gendamark lines, especially on the lines, and that's actually a interesting part, is we are able to deploy Odin even on legacy machines, even on old assembly lines, which are not ready for the new technology. So our job was to go backwards and not deprive those, because there are thousands of lines which are running in factories right now, right?
Just they have nothing.
They have nothing. But Odin still can be deployed on those.
But that was the whole point of Odin. So we built Odin. So you must remember, Odin used to be part of the automation. So what we've done now is we've taken Odin out like this, separate product, can be used on Gendamark lines, but you as, let's just say you don't want a Gendamark line, or you've got an existing factory with a whole lot of lines, you can take the Odin technology and put it on there.
Put on the old lines.
That was the whole point of it. We realized we had such a valuable solution and such a solution that could really benefit the customer and meet their needs, that we wanted, and we in the process of now doing that and scaling it, selling it as a separate. So we still sell it as part of our lines. So we had a point now, for example, if we are bidding on an automation line, let's just say with one of our competitors, and we don't get the line, we could actually say to our competitor, yeah, you can buy Odin and use Odin. They could buy it from us as a standalone software, because they don't have that software. So that's the idea about the software. And then obviously it also allows us, because you must remember we do predominantly automotive business, in the automation business. What Odin allows us to do is to predominantly go into any kind of manufacturing business, which is what's the
GI industry, pharmaceutical, the white good industry. So Odin is actually deployed right now already on non-automotive business also.
You mentioned about some of the use cases, like for example, the pharmaceutical industry, which is a hybrid manufacturing, batch processing, what they call. Are there any use cases of Odin or your solutions used in the process industry?
In discrete manufacturing, yes, but in especially in non-discrete manufacturing, where you don't have a series batch of production, you still, we are also exploring now with aerospace industry. So there was typically a series production. We'll have particular X number of products being done every shift, every day. But when you have got let's say you're building a aeroplane, which doesn't happen every 2 minutes, but it takes a long time to build.
That makes sense. Boeing needs our product.
So I think there's definitely a potential there. It's only the mindset that is it for non-series production, but I think there is.
No, for an aeroplane it definitely is, because a lot of aeroplanes production, when they assemble their plane, it's manual. So you've got humans, so that's where Odin comes in, and also it's not millions of things being done. It's one component and then a couple of components. So definitely within that space, there's opportunity for it. So it really works best with discrete manufacturing, right? With discrete, when you have, not when you're having, so for example, a bottling factory like Coca-Cola, where they're doing, it wouldn't work for that, but our other product would work for that. Raven could monitor the assembly line, could actually work out uptime, the vibrations, all that. Raven can do that.
Interesting. Siegfried, you worked with Jendamark in different capacities and different roles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, what
please.
do you want to ask me? Yeah.
The question is, how is your leadership philosophy? Has it evolved, and what impact it has on Gendamark Automation's culture and strategy and success?
Okay, well, I'll tell you, my leadership philosophy has never changed. It's always been the same. I'm hard, but I'm fair. Okay. I trust you 100% until I don't trust you. All right. And I'm macro. So macro means I'm hands off. I don't micromanage. If I set the broad strategy, I set the kind of goals and the direction, and the team must go in that direction. If my job as a manager and as a leader is to support you,
Provide.
to provide, okay, and to guide and to help you with strategy. My job is not to do the job. Okay, I don't care what time my employees come to work. I don't care when they leave. In actual fact, the less they work, the better. And it's all for me about results. If you're getting the results in 1 hour, you should get double your salary because it means that you're productive. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? I've never changed my view. I always took the view that when I was working for a boss, I don't want him looking over my shoulder and checking what I'm doing because it means he doesn't trust me. They need to know that I've got their backs 150%. They need to know that they can come to me anytime that they need me for anything. I'll be there to help them. It doesn't matter how big or small. I'm not sure if my leadership styles had an influence on the culture of the company. I can't answer that question. You'd have to ask Himanshu and the other people that work with me. And I'm not saying that my style is necessarily right. You know, everybody's got their different way of thing. But the other thing about me is I don't accept anything other than the best. Don't tell me that you can't do it or you can't do it the best. That won't work in my world.
That's a fantastic answer. Himanshu, would you like to add on what he said about leadership philosophy and its impact on the culture and the success and the outcome?
So I think, like we said before, we understand each leader will have his own way of doing things. Siegfried's leadership style and my leadership style, Ganesh's style, Kuntal's style, Graham's styles are all different, and we respect that. You know, if I try to be him and he tries to be me, it won't work. So for example, his leadership style, like I said, is fair and hard. My leadership style is a bit more collaborative, a bit more accommodating, because we are in the phase today in India where we are creating this massive organization. But at the same time, I adopt to each of their respective styles and include them in my leadership style as well. So it's always like, so in our we all have this discussion always that it's like an Indian curry. So you need an element of salt, pepper, you need spices.
Some more spice, some little spice.
Sometimes you have to change and make your own Indian curry, which is a combination of each of the elements required.
Let me define it for you very, very simply. So with me, you either work very well with me, like really well with me. So I call them my lieutenants and my right hand, like Himanshu is one of them. I have about 10 around me. Okay, my inner circle, my foundation and my rock. Most of them have been with me for, Himanshu is probably the least, been with me for 8 years. Some of them have been with me for 20 years. So you either work very well with me, or you can't work with me. And you'll find that out very quickly. You understand what I'm saying to you? So you either buy into kind of how I work, or you don't. I don't know if that maybe answers it a bit better.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty straight. I expect you, just like I'm going to tell you, look, Manesh, I'm not happy with the way you've done this, or you're not performing. I expect the same from you to me. So you must be able to come to me and say to me, Sig, listen, I asked you to do X, Y, and Z, you haven't done it. And I'll accept it. I've got no problem with it. I will.
Open to feedback.
Absolutely. 100% open. And once we've had a discussion about something, it's over. We're never discussing it again.
I can also add one thing is was Siegfried. The relationship with him doesn't end if you're not working in Jendamark.
No.
So I know for a fact many people who are no longer with Gendamark, who have been part of Gendamark in the whole story. They're not in Gendamark now, but they are still on his dial list and they still connected to him.
And I still message them and see how they are. And
it never changes. I mean, we spoke yesterday about that. It's like a family. You can have a son who leaves work and goes to a different country to work, but that doesn't mean he's not a part of family now.
yeah, the example I use is, when your children leave the house, so they've been working for me, I see them as my children when they work for me in Gendamark, and now they leave and they go and have a better opportunity, which I'm happy about because I've been part of that, to allow them to be better, but they're still part of the family, right? Doesn't mean now you cut them off.
Himanshu,
Yes.
8 years with Jendamark and different roles again. Started in the sales, business development projects. You worked across different regions, and so could you share on your journey and the key learnings from that, and what inspires you the most? Who are the leaders you look up to, you get inspirations from?
To start with, I think it has been an accidental leadership. It's not something which I got up in the morning, decided that okay, next 3 years I'll be a leader, or I'll lead an organization like Gendamark. I think it was, to be honest, it was an accidental leadership which came across. Obviously, Siegfried always backed it. He always thought about it. He always said he always knew it.
No, I saw
I
it.
didn't
I
have a
saw
doubt.
it at VW.
I had my doubts, to be honest. But then once I was given this responsibility, right? Once I took over this role, I am always driven by the passion to excel, irrespective of the situation. Every day in the morning, it's always about what different, what better, what is it that I can add value to, and it's always about, now it's more on also on the responsibility which you see the 300 guys working for us, right? I mean, their aspirations, their beliefs, they have set their lives goals, their dreams based on what they can achieve, based on what we do, right? Our decisions, our directions influence them. If you think of it, at 300 families today are building their life plans based on what we are discussing, right? And then that's enough of a motivation to get up
It's a
every
big
day morning
responsibility.
to just say there's no question. I mean, we look at it as an opportunity that we have got the responsibility to exercise this huge responsibility to ensure that all the whole 300 plus, and he has 1,000 now, are taken care of. We can't drop the ball, and that navigates for me any other personal things I may have, even if it is sometimes when we don't, like he's having a back problem now and he is uncomfortable, we take it in the stride because we have a much bigger responsibility towards our employees first, customers of course, but in the end, it's always guy who works for you on the right side.
That brings us to the tagline of Odin, which is human-centric. So everything what you believe is should be human-centric.
It has to, because at the end of the day, people work for people.
Everything's about people.
People work for people.
I mean, it might be a business to a business, but there's a person there. When you deal with someone in another company, you're dealing with a person. You're not dealing with a company. Doesn't have a name. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's about the individual and the personality.
So it's not B2B, B2C.
It's never
No,
B2B.
it's always say,
It's person to person. Always. And what you often find is you have a good relationship with Mr. X in a company. You do really well, and he leaves, and he goes. Now you work with him there. The new guy comes, doesn't like you, and then your business relationship with that company changes. Nothing changes. You're still providing the same service, the same product, but now all of a sudden, because that guy for some reason doesn't like the way that you look, or doesn't like the way that you talk, or whatever, now he's not buying from you. You see what I'm saying? Everything in the world is about people. If you can get people to do things for you, okay, and I'm talking about employees, I'm talking about your suppliers, I'm talking about your customers, if you can get them to do things for you in a willing manner, you will be successful in life.
My next question is about Gendamark's corporate social responsibilities, and you do a lot of programs. So could you elaborate on those programs, Siegfried, and how it is impacting the communities involved, the ecosystem, and especially with a focus on education and skill development?
So one of the things that we as a company want to do is we want to give back. It's not all about making money, especially in the communities that we live, wherever our businesses are situated, in those cities and in those areas. we really want to make a difference and uplift people. So what we try to do within the company, we have certain programs. I'll just start there. A simple program as clean up. So we have a similar problem to what you have in India, with rubbish and stuff, because the municipal services are non-existent. So once a week, every department, as a team building exercise, goes around the whole area and picks up all the litter. That's an example. Our focus is a lot on children. We support a children home in South Africa, which is we're the sole funder because the government no longer supports them. What she does is she looks after abandoned babies that have just been left, and she'll take them and look after it. So we support her. We've built an educational system, ecosystem called Odin Education, where we can provide pretty much education to the poorest of poor in an ecosystem. We started rolling that out. We've got about, probably over the last 3 years, we had about 3,000 learners in South Africa on that. And in India now
we're reaching 200.
200
That's
kids.
fantastic.
I went to visit the school the last time I was here in January. It was unbelievable. So we're really trying to uplift and for us, we feel children is where we can make the difference and give them an opportunity. A lot of our CSR kind of program goes into trying to bring them to the office, get them exposure. We run internships. So I have in South Africa about 35 internships where we bring people in to skill them up for 3 or 4 years within certain skills, because we lack skills like tool making and
Design.
the real kind of skill side of things. We have many initiatives. We have a sanctuary in South Africa that we bought. It used to be a lion sanctuary that had lions and tigers in it, which I don't like animals in cages, so we took all the animals out, and we have free roaming animals. And what we did is we bought it for predominantly for our staff and their families, so that they can go there. We've built a running trail and a biking trail. You can go there and you can go and have a lunch with your barbecue with your kids, or like a picnic. We have like a petting zoo, and what we also do is we bring in communities from buses of kids from areas and we'll take them on a tour, show them the animals, and give them a day out. And we try and do things like that. So we it's not just about giving money; it's about really trying to make a difference. That's really our.
That's great to know. And how far is this sanctuary from Port Elizabeth?
20 minutes.
20 minutes.
That's one more reason for me to come to South
No, you
Africa.
must come to South Africa. You'll have a good time. And then obviously Himanshu, he does a lot of stuff. I mean, a hell of a lot of things that they've done.
Could you also, because in India I have seen Jendamark collaborating with, say, Rotary clubs.
Yes. So what we started, I mean, obviously the idea was something which originated in South Africa on Odin education. What we realized, and I think, and Siegfried also agrees on that, is it has a far bigger outreach than any CSR or any such initiative, because you go to the children. What we have believed, and what I always felt, is that the place of birth, I mean, we don't choose our place of birth, we don't choose our parents. That is written before you are born, right? But that shouldn't be a disadvantage for where you end in your life. Because if I am born in a city to educated parents, I didn't do anything to be there. I just was born in that environment. If I am born in a village with uneducated parents, that shouldn't be a disadvantage for me to achieve what any city kid can achieve. And what we are doing with Odin Education is actually bridging that gap. And we are taking education, knowledge, and life skills to
And technology.
villages, and technology to villages, and telling the students, because we have, what our studies showed, there is a lot of money poured in education to build schools, to build infrastructure, but there aren't enough teachers. So the children actually, and we have gone to those schools, children actually go to schools and they realize, oh, today there is nobody to teach them. So all they do is sit and do nothing. Whereas with Odin Education, you don't need a teacher. You can on your own open the tab and start self-learning. Interestingly, they also, when life skills come in, they can also ask questions which is very important to them, very personal to them, which they don't know whom to ask. They don't have educated parents to go for guidance. They don't know, I mean, I have come across students which are doing now, how to become a lawyer, how to become an IAS officer,
An accountant.
and an accountant. They had no clue.
What age group is this?
This is, we start from 6th standard up to 10th standard.
You should actually go to one of those.
So one of- because-
Surely, I
You
believe.
should go and look at our system. It's really,
And that is also, we are also seeing now a lot of our partners joining us. So they see now that Gendamark is involved. I think a lot of times we get asked question, why are you doing this? You are in automation, technology, but that's what the whole point is, that we want to leverage the technology and create an impact actually on the grassroots where it matters. We can all do business, we can all talk, sign deals and all of that, but real problem is not here. The real influence.
And
of
I find
technology back there.
when you give money to charity, for every 1 rupee that you give, 50% goes to administrators. So we want to have a direct impact, a direct line of
And we
sight.
are managing it professionally, so it's not like a charity organization.
And I mean,
We
we've
run it
got
as a business profession.
we can track every single one of our children, when they're on the device, how long they spend, what things. It's safe. You can't go to. It's closed, so you can only go to educational sites. So we have full reporting. It's a really good system.
So you can track to the
Absolutely. We give you all the data. So if you decided, okay, I want to sponsor 50 kids, we could give you a quarterly, monthly report on every single one of those.
And also, small things, but like in India, what is menstrual hygiene? The rural girls in India, they don't know.
Yeah. In South Africa, it's the same problem. So in South
they don't
Africa,
know.
yeah.
How do you solve a girl's problem?
So,
Which
for
first time
example, in
experience?
South Africa, in the rural areas, the girls miss 1 week out of a month school when they're menstruating because they obviously.
They don't know how to deal
Yeah.
with it. There are so many such issues which we have come, and we never thought that Odin education could actually influence their lives so much on so many other aspects. So we have a function called Call DD or Aunt, so where they can ask such personal questions also. And now we have got a team behind at the back end who's constantly, on a average day, we are answering 100 questions. That's the influence which we feel in the long term will have a much bigger impact on society.
So my view is, if I can change one person's life, just one, if I can make one change in one person's life, whatever that might be, it's enough.
It's great to know this, and the passion with which you actually spoke about these initiatives and the impact it is making is just amazing, and it's quite inspirational to know that. My next question to Himanshu, and you can also answer, Siegfried. A lot of these new engineers, young engineers who get out of college, the core mechanical, electronics, instrumentation, and production engineering, there is a tendency to join the IT industry or non-manufacturing industry
The unsexy industries.
and sexy industries. Yeah. How do you make sure that, or how do you inspire them, motivate them to join the manufacturing industry or make manufacturing industry attractive so that they think about this as their first choice?
It's a good question. It's a very good question.
I think what we did in India now, since before COVID, one of the first steps we did was we went to those institutions to show them that what their perception is not what actual reality is. It's a perception that the manufacturing industry is oily, dirty, unclean, unhygienic,
Or they call it as
Or they call
3Ds,
it-
dirty, dangerous, difficult.
yes. And,
Yes.
and the reality is far from that. And when we actually go there and show that, like I mentioned before, we built India's first EV battery pack line, and that's the technology which we use to implement it. And there is suddenly eyes light up. Then we show about what software can do in manufacturing, which you never heard of, never thought of. It's not about just sitting on a laptop, but when you create software for manufacturing, you can see a direct impact on production. So actually, the new generation, they have to be just told the end effect. What happens in the end with what you're doing? Because they are not focused only on money. They are not focused only on a job description or a title. That's when sometimes in the former days, if you see, the title mattered a lot. Are you a assistant general manager or are you? These guys don't care. They actually want to see what impact their job has. Is their job contributing? Is it important for the business? And once we could show them that look, if you work for Gendamark, this is what you can do. And we have got so many opportunities. So we also have some very interesting policies. We sponsor education. We have an exchange program with South Africa, and universities in India. So we send South Africans, we bring South Africans from South Africa to India. We send Indian students to South Africa. So a lot of engagement happens where they see that there's a lot to learn. And whenever we have seen students get on philanthropy of engagements, they are always attracted. And our average age in India, at least, if I look at the staff, is still less than 30. So that's really a achievement that when we see a lot of customers coming in, they always are amazed. They keep telling us there's something here which is very
South Africa as well. I mean, South Africa, I think our average age is below 35.
So, and that's the key of getting young guys in, and also we are open to their ideas.
To achieve these objectives of attracting young engineers to join manufacturing, I see that Jendamark India has a lot of industry institute engagements. Could you elaborate on some of them?
So, like I said, first step is we go to the industry, academic students. We go there and showcase what we do. That's the first step in starting engagement so that they relate to what Gendamark does. Next, we have our own systems and softwares and machines also, which we actually put in colleges. Our collaborative robots, we actually put them in colleges. We train them. It's not part of academics. We do it as our own initiative to spread the awareness because, to be honest, our academics are way behind what we actually expect them to do once they come out of academics, right? Once they are on the job, we know that when the student leaves college and he comes to work, there's a huge gap. We can't change academics. So what we're doing is we're actually going there with what the industry really needs. They may not join Gendamark, but it's for the larger good that we expose them to what is expected from them once they leave colleges. That actually is, I think, a right direction because we are telling them this is what we expect in the world. And once they come out, then they are far better prepared. We have engagement programs where we call in students to work with us, and not only students,
And
we
professors.
have professors.
They come sit here for 3
So we have
months.
got professors coming with us and working for us.
The faculty development.
Yes,
program?
The faculty works with us.
yeah.
They
come and sit, they lecture, the professors come and sit here with us.
We are also on board of education advisory for several colleges, where we are now trying to change the syllabus.
Okay.
So that we can add some element like we spoke about Industry 4.0. It's not a single page on any of the colleges right now. So that's something we are trying to bring from our side to have this relationship deep forged. It should not be just a transactional one where I'm hiring students. I think that's a wrong goal to set that we want to only go to colleges to hire students. We must actually go to engage them more and give them something and prepare them once they come out.
Apprise them of new technology.
And also I think we sponsor like the racing team and some other things, some initiatives that have that.
We support them in designing.
There's that racing.
So we support a couple of colleges in Baha racing, financially and technically.
And SAE India. Society of Automotive Engineering. Oh, that's interesting. That reminds me of an African proverb. If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. Yes. It's wonderful to see the kind of work Gendamark is doing, not only in developing technologies to make manufacturing productive and efficient for your customers, but also the initiatives on the CSR front and your institute and industry engagement initiatives are wonderful to know. And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to interact with you. I love the insights, and this was an enriching discussion for me to engage with. I have one small segment which is called as what do they call these quick questions? The fire
question. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
What is the name?
I've seen them do with the footballers, where they ask you one quick question. And
the quick questions.
What is the name of that?
Rapid fire.
Rapid fire. Thank you for.
And it's a one-word answer, right?
One word answer.
Yes. Okay.
So one word, the long question, but one word answer. I'll give two choices.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Are you game for it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So maybe I'll start with you.
Sure.
Yeah. When South Africa is playing against your opponents in cricket.
Yes. So
which team would you like South Africa to beat with a large margin? Is it Australia?
Australia.
That's interesting. In cricket, Himanshu, is it Jaunty Rhodes or Ravindra Jadeja?
Rhodes.
Really?
Yeah.
Both are good fielders.
Yeah, very good.
Jadeja, of course, brings in his other skills, which
Yeah.
is
To me, because I can explain after answer now, because Rhodes actually brought in the idea of good field.
Yes.
We
And
didn't
fitness and yeah.
We didn't have that culture.
When he ran out in Zimamul Haq in 1992 when he dived.
absolutely.
Yeah,
That's
that was
something.
amazing.
Yeah.
Culture was set by him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a game changer. And in fact, Jaunty Rhodes, I live in Goa.
Yeah, so he's actually, yeah.
He's currently in Goa with his family, enjoying his.
He's a great guy. He's a really great guy. No other rapid questions, eh?
I have, but these are business related.
Yeah.
So, in terms of markets,
Mm.
India or China?
India.
India or China?
No question. India.
Interesting. In terms of your role, as you progressed in your career, Himanshu, I'll start with you.
Yeah.
Is it the project execution or sales? What role you enjoy the most?
Sales.
For you,
Execution. Project execution.
but for you the option was finance or project execution.
Project execution. Project execution, I'll tell you why, because project execution, you can sell as much as you want, but if you make a bad project, you'll never sell again.
Okay.
Project execution is the most important. That is your best selling tool. If project execution is right, the finance is fine.
It's automatically going to be correct.
One final question.
Yes.
Sports related. Himanshu. Cricket or hockey?
Cricket.
Cricket or rugby?
Rugby.
Ah, okay.
Rugby.
he's a pure South African.
Rugby. Rugby, then cricket.
Thank you so much.
You can ask that question to any South African. I can promise you now 99% of them will tell you
Rugby.
It's rugby.
it's rugby. 100%.
Siegfried, it was a pleasure.
Nice
speaking
meeting you, Manish. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Himanshu.
Manish.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.